Motive is normally seen as a primary element. So, how long until we know the motive for the murders of AKA and Tibz? It's topical, and it starts right now. A very good evening to you, South Africa, those watching around the world. My name is Blaine Herman, and this is It's Topical, our digital audience with us tonight. It's so good to have them on the program. Among them, Nhlanhla Jele. We're going to cross to her live. She's live for us in Eswatini. Looking forward to their questions for our guests in terms of our digital audience in a short while. This week, a high-profile murder case was thrown back into the spotlight. 5 men in court in connection with the murders of Keenan Forbes and Tabelo Motswane. Among the charges, conspiracy to commit murder, unlawful possession of a firearm, unlawful possession of ammunition, and 5 counts of attempted murder. It took over a year to get to this stage, but there's a timeline of arrests here, which I'll get to shortly. This case has also thrown a number of questions to the fore. Do you think police act or perform differently depending on the popularity of a case? To what extent does the glare of the media fast track the resolution of cases? On the flip side, does the media show more interest in high-profile cases than lesser-known ones? So if there is, or what is perceived as, a slow progress in certain so-called high-profile cases, does it unfairly paint the police service in a bad light, forgetting about the gains made in the other cases? No doubt, high-profile cases are subjected to intense media scrutiny. But to what extent does it blur out the gains being made in other lesser-known cases? We will discuss. Which leads us to the question of the week. And we are asking you, what do you make of the strategy employed by the police to catch AKA and Tibz murder suspects? Look, the strategy, as explained by Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Jele, was not to talk about their arrests until they informed the family, and secondly, knowing that they are going to court. That's important. We will discuss that in a short while. So police tried to find a way to identify the people and arrest them and detain them for parallel cases. So when the time was right and they had all the other suspects, they then would charge them in connection with the AKA and Tibz murders. Important aspect indeed. We will discuss with the better minds. Follow me. Let's discuss strategy. Let's discuss content. Perspective is important with regards to this. We're trying to find out more about this case and how does it help us better understand the strategy police are employing. Share your thoughts with us at It's Topical SABC. Perspective coming up. All right, let's get you some context. And as always, we turn to the magic wall, what we know and why it matters. Timelines, important. Let's get to it. So, Mr. Forbes and Mr. Motswane killed over a year ago, 10th of Feb, in the port city of Durban. And a year later, we hear of major developments in this case. Now, that doesn't mean that there was no work being done over the last 12 months or so. I will explain. I want to show you this. We now know about the 7 people who are linked to the murders. 5 have already appeared in court. They are now the accused, right? 2 more, we understand, are in Eswatini. It's alleged among these accused is the person police referred to as the so-called coordinator. Now, whether this person is the so-called mastermind, in other words, the person who ordered the alleged hit, will be determined after further investigations. That's what we heard. Whether there are so-called layers above the alleged coordinator, that's up to the investigators to find out, right? And present such evidence to court. Now, turning to the question of the week, where we interrogate the parallel cases strategy employed by SAPS to close the net on the 7 suspects. Let's hear from the KZN Police Commissioner, Nhlanhla Jele, when he explained why they used this method. Take a listen.
The strategy that we employed was that after identifying these 6, we're going to look for parallel cases that they are involved in. And we're going to arrest them on those cases and keep them in custody, but don't charge them on the case that we're investigating, the main case 85 of February last year, which happened in Florida. So the reason for that is because we wanted to make sure that we get almost all the suspects, especially the organizer of the hit. So after identifying everyone else, and we could realize that of the 6 suspects, at least 4 of them, we have parallel cases.
All right, that's the strategy, right? I want to just give you a sense in terms of this timeline that I was talking about, timeline of the arrest. And it could also explain why maybe it took a year to announce these new developments. Let me explain further. And this is the information that we got from the KZN Police Commissioner. And the first suspect was arrested, we understand, on the 22nd of April, right? Charges related to a different case. And this was the alleged organizer of the firearms and the vehicles in the AKA Tibz murder case. And then on the 24th of October, police effected the second arrest. And it's alleged this was one of the spotters, again arrested for murder in another case. On the 14th of February, third suspect arrested, again linked to another murder case that apparently happened in Toti, right? 24th of Feb this year. After chasing 2 suspects the whole year, police found them hiding in a house in Eswatini. How do we know this? The police told us that informers gave them photos and could confirm their whereabouts. Police then approached the NPA. An affidavit was prepared and was submitted through Interpol in order to request authorities in Eswatini to help catch the 2 suspects. Now, according to Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi, they were then arrested on Saturday morning in Eswatini. Follow me on this one, right? On Monday, police had warrants of arrest for the last 2 suspects. But when the news broke about this, police say that the suspects they were looking for went on the run. Then, as we understand it, on the Tuesday, that was this week, Tuesday, the 27th of Feb, their lawyers informed police that they were going to hand themselves over. Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi used the word they during that press briefing, right? So at the end of the press conference on Tuesday, we learned that there were 6 suspects. The next day, the 28th of Feb, we heard that the 7th suspect was arrested. Now, I know it got a little confusing towards the end, but in total, 7 people have been arrested and linked to the AKA Tibz murders. So in a nutshell, police say they have the alleged coordinator, they have the person who allegedly supplied firearms and vehicles, they also have the alleged shooters and spotters. Let me now bring in attorney Abigail Ngobese, who has been closely monitoring this case. Abigail, thank you very much for coming through. We need you, obviously, your better mind to help us understand the nuances of this case, right? Firstly, and I think it's something that the police has been at pains to stress or underline so that the public understands the difference between what they do, what falls under their purview, and now what happens with regards to the NPA. Give us the roles that are being played by the 2 entities.
Look, when we talk of SABS, the SAPS, they are mainly tasked with investigating matters, collecting evidence, not just information, quality evidence that will enable NPA to prosecute and successfully convict. It's not every information that qualifies as an evidence. That's why they need to take their time to ensure that amongst the information that they have, they bring forth quality evidence for a successful conviction to be done.
Right. So they've done their job.
Yes.
It's now in the hands of the NPA to prosecute.
Yes.
What are some of the signs and signals that gives police confidence that this case is ripe for prosecution?
Look, with the cases that one have followed, particularly the high-profile cases, it is very important that when they investigate, they come up with all the elements that qualify for a particular offense. You'd remember, I'll take you back to the Bester case. When the suspects were arrested, there were charges there, but amongst the charges, there was a charge of murder.
Right.
That charge only stood for a night. There was a charge of murder today, the following day it was dropped.
Right.
And then it brings a question to say, why then arrest if you have not qualified your evidence to fit within the elements of the commission of such an offense?
Right.
So what we are saying is, when they investigate and draw confidence, they must satisfy themselves to say, as the crime is defined, the elements are there and contained in the evidence.
Right.
When the NPA prosecute, they will be able to use this evidence to successfully convict.
Something that also came up with regards to the Bester case as well was the issue of extradition or deportation. Now, I want you to explain this issue because there is a difference, isn't it, in terms of what extradition is and what deportation is. Help us understand both these things and the process that follows.
Look, with the extradition, it involves both states.
Right.
But with deportation, it's more of taking back an illegal immigrant back to their country. But with extradition, you remember in the Magudumana case, there was an application in, I think, in the Bloemfontein High Court, when she was challenging her arrest. Part of the things that the court said there, the court said, handing over of the suspects from the authorities of Tanzania to the authorities of South Africa, that was mainly an extradition in the disguised and not following the proper processes. So with following processes in an extradition, it's a complex process, but there are treaties and protocols. Like in the SADC, we have a protocol for extradition that involves a lot of countries in the southern, in the SADC community. So even the Swaziland, where the others are kept, they are part of that particular protocol. So the Magudumana case, we also have Tanzania forming part of that protocol. So there are extradition laws. Each country have their domestic laws. Two, their protocols where countries become signatories to say, as and when there is an application for a person who has allegedly committed an offense or need to be convicted or needs to be sentenced, can use that, follow the processes to bring that person back.
In terms of the speed, and we know these are the other high-profile cases, right, with regards to the issue of extradition. How quick can it go? How long? Maybe I'll rephrase it. How long can we expect in terms of an extradition process to take place?
It's very complex. We cannot have one rule fits all. You'll remember that on the case of the Prophet and his wife, as far as 2020, we had the initial inquiry in Malawi. And the magistrate there had the inquiry. The defense raised different aspects, and I think, Blaine, in this instance, it's a proper time for these extradition laws to be intensively interrogated to say, are they properly serving the purposes given the time that they take. When we talk back to the Bushiri matter, since 2020, there are a lot of defense issues that were raised by the Defense Council there. It even went to the High Court there. And as it stands now, we are told that the witnesses that will be testifying in South Africa should then go and testify in an inquiry there. That will tell you that there are complex issues, so we cannot state time. Each case is depend on its merit, but extradition processes take time.
As long as how long?
It's very
how
difficult.
long is a piece of string?
It's very difficult. It's very difficult to say. But you check the Gupta matter. Even now, we have not get a proper outcome to say when is the minister going to correct what the court they questioned to say they have not done properly. So it's a process that I cannot come up with. It can take 6 months, it can 1 year, 2 years, depending on how complex the matter is, and the willingness of the other party, of course, to hold inquiries.
Abigail, thank you very much indeed. You're going to stick around. We need to tap into your better mind to help us further understand other issues. Thank you very much indeed, Abigail Ngobese there. All right, on the regular Word on the Street feature, we took to the streets of Johannesburg to seek diverse insight and perspectives on this topic, and this is what people had to say. Take a look.
It's obvious that there's a mastermind behind this, but I mean, if we really think about it, I mean, these guys are just the four guys, in all honesty. Yes, they're the ones that do the crime, but there's like a bigger person involved in all of that. But it would really be tough to track that person, like the person behind this, because it's obvious that the person wanted him gone. It could be the 7 guys, but we'll just have to wait and see how the case unfolds, because perhaps, like we've seen with the Senzo case, how many people have been arrested, how long it's taken 10 plus years. So really, it's a lot touch and go.
I think there just has to be like thorough investigation with it, and it has to be made an example of when they catch the guys and they give them an appropriate sentence. It has to be made an example of. And look, if there's 7 suspects arrested, that seems like it's a bit like there's progress. I do think there are people in the law enforcement who do their jobs, right? And the fact that we do have 7 suspects, it does go to show that there's something happening around it.
I feel like it's not going to be solved. Looking at, like you said, the recent cases in the Senzo case, I feel like it's just going to be a thing of the case is going to go on, and then something like along the lines of lack of evidence is going to come, and then they're just going to abandon the case, and then like most cases basically. I feel like this is not going to be, it's not going to be a case solved or anything like that. Yeah.
Out of the case itself, I don't think the justice will be done. There's either bribery or they won't get full sentences. And no, you don't feel safe in South Africa. It's very tough living, especially being a single mom. It's hard. It's really tough. So there's no justice in this country. So yeah, I wish them luck. And I hope their parents see some resolution to all of this and they can also sleep well at night.
For me, seeing justice being made it makes me feel kind of proud as a South African. So with this, it's just controversial to actually realize that this case has been only broken near the elections.
I don't feel safe at all. I feel endangered because I might be part of the murder. I could be killed tomorrow and not having to know why.
I really do hope that these 7 suspects that they arrested really are the people who committed this treacherous murder. So to sort of heal our country. But in the same breath, I just find it very funny that the 7 suspects were found when we're 2 months away from elections. I just feel like that's just a little bit funny. And from a point of, do I trust the Justice Department for justice to be served? Yes and no, to a certain extent. It just depends on how motivated they really, really are to regain South Africa's trust.
All right, we really appreciate your thoughts on this matter. I want to take you now to Eswatini. Let me bring in SABC News Reporter Nhlanhla Jele. She's standing by in the Kingdom of Eswatini, where South Africa is expected to extradite 2 more suspects linked to the murder of AK and Tibz. She joins us now live. Nhlanhla, a very good evening to you. What more are we learning at this hour regarding the 2 suspects currently in Eswatini?
Good evening to you, Blaine, and to our viewers at home. Indeed, we are in Mbabane in the Kingdom of Eswatini, where we know that the 2 accused are expected to appear at the Manzini Court, Magistrates Court, this coming Tuesday for the process of extradition to begin. We do know from their legal representative that so far they appeared last week, Monday. However, the matter was postponed to this coming Tuesday. Their legal representative did mention to us earlier on when we arrived that they only have the provisional application for the extradition process to begin. So they're expecting the full comprehensive application so that they know whether to continue with this process or not. Also, depending on what is going to be contained in this application, then it will be known whether there will be a postponement or whether this extradition process is going to carry on. The guest that you spoke to earlier did make mention of the fact that these processes take a while. We were also told that it's not a one-day thing. She also mentioned the issue of deportation, that it's not as easy as it looks. So, and earlier on, we also reported that these suspects were arrested or were detained in the country for being here illegally, but we later on understood from their legal representative that those are not the charges that they are going with, but rather they are arrested for 5 counts of murder, including that, obviously, of AKA and Tibello Motswana. Blaine?
So we are yet to understand in terms of the duration of the process. Do we know how many days it's being provided for with regards to this hearing?
So far, we do know that it's only on Tuesday, but their legal representative did make mention of the fact that they were expecting the full comprehensive application to be done at least by close of business on Friday. However, they have not received it yet. He says that they're hoping to meet tomorrow just to finalize this whole application and see, depending on what is contained in this application. For instance, he mentioned the fact of safety, whether their clients are going to be safe when they are being extradited to South Africa to face these charges of murder, one including that of AKA and Tibello, as I've mentioned. So he says that depending on what is contained in the application, they might, them as their legal representative of these two accused, they might decide that no, they are not satisfied with this application, so there should be a postponement, meaning they're going to remain in Eswatini and the process needs to officially and fully and properly start, like as I said, depending on what is contained in the application. We also do know that there actually was another third suspect from the papers that we got. There was a third suspect who apparently disappeared or ran away when the two were arrested. Remember, they already appeared in court. They are popularly known as the Ndimande brothers, popularly known in KZN for whatever business they are involved in that side. So we do know that a third suspect is at large, according to the papers and according to their legal representative. Blaine?
We do know, and Eswatini publication broke the story of the arrest of the accused persons. Talk to us about the interests, Nhlanhla, with regards to this case in that country.
True. We also heard on the ground when we arrived and started making inroads and trying to get a better understanding of what really happened, or if these people were known or if they had any form of relations to anyone in this country. And we got to understand that they had actually two houses which they were living in, obviously in separate areas. And in one of the houses, the neighbors were confident to say, we knew these guys who lived here. They were not troublesome. They were like normal citizens. They were not even aware that they came into the country illegally. We also understand that they've been living in Eswatini, I think, since sometime November last year. In December, apparently they had a huge party on Christmas Day. So the people, they were gelling in with the people in the country. They were normal people, normal citizens in the country. And also in the houses that they were living in, one of the houses is close to a university around in the Kingdom of Eswatini. So it was obviously flooded with girls and friends, local people coming in. So they gelled. So the people are interested. They want to know what's going to happen with them. Are they going to be deported? Are they going to be extradited? Yeah. Are they going to remain in the country? But we shall see what happens when we get to court on Tuesday. Blaine?
Right. Nhlanhla Jele, SABC News Reporter, live for us in Eswatini tonight, working the story for us tonight. And you can be rest assured that the SABC News has all the angles covered on this story, the upcoming court appearance in both Eswatini and South Africa. Nhlanhla, to you and your team, thank you very much indeed. Let's get the ball rolling with regards to this discussion. We've got lots to discuss. We've lined up a number of guests as well to help us better understand this. Joining Abigail Ngobese is Calvin Rafadi. Thank you very much indeed, sir, for your time. Calvin is a crime and forensic expert. We also have our digital audience here as well. So they will be also throwing some questions and giving us some perspectives as well. Thank you, both of you, for joining us. Calvin, if I can start with you first. So police quietly working behind the scenes for over a year now with regards to these arrests for parallel cases. So that term has been used a lot of late. What do you make of this strategy?
Yeah, thank you for the invite. The strategy that we've seen, in the past we've seen that police, especially when it comes to high-profile cases, they will activate what we call a 72 hours reaction.
Right.
So it doesn't bear fruit because at the end of the day, you end up on lawsuit with the IPID, arresting wrong people, and you can't even place them at the scene of crime. So we applaud the police on the strategy that they've come up with of the KZN, but at the same time, it was a bit risky. And why I'm saying that, let me just quickly support my statement. if you take any suspect, charge them with another case, and should you not follow up on that case in court, and they get a bail or they get acquitted from that case, to now charge them on a different case, it becomes difficult. Now you have to now apply for a warrant of arrest. But the strategy, it did work, it did materialize. Also that we are also worried about the other one who ran away, and we are saying crime intelligence once again, guys, you are missing in action. Why I'm saying so? We, as some of the sources or informants on the ground, normally when we give addresses to the police, they put up a civilian on that particular address so that there's no criminal who can escape. Now, they were supposed to speak to their counterpart of Interpol with the Swazi so that the day when they go and arrest all of them, nobody gets to run away. So once again, we say, guys, come on, crime intelligence, you are not being proactive again.
Right. Abigail, what do you make of this strategy? It's obviously not a one-size-fits-all in terms of the cases, right?
I find the strategy to be a good one, particularly because in the past, we have had high-profile cases that did not go anywhere. Remember that it's not necessarily about the arrest. It's about having justice. And if you are to attain justice, you must find means of bringing a sustainable prosecution. And what do I mean by that? You must have enough evidence upon which the NPA can rely on to prove the case beyond reasonable doubt. So it's not going to help to have somebody arrested today, wrongfully so. Like he had said, you can't link them to the crime, and you actually give the defense counsel a weapon to apply for Section 174 and have them discharged. And then that also brings the entire justice system into a test as if it's not working. And it does not necessarily, at the end of the day, mean that the commission of a crime was not there. Sometimes the commission was there, but evidence was not enough to successfully convict. So I think the strategy worked well for the police.
Calvin, Abigail mentioned something interesting with regards to justice. And as you know, the dictum says that justice must not only be done, but it must also be seen to be done. How do you weigh up the public's need or want to know in terms of the developments of a case versus protecting the integrity of the investigations?
Yeah, no, that's a good one. Actually, we want to also urge some of our community members not to stop contaminating scene of crimes. What do we mean by that? Like we've seen with the CIT, whenever the truck has been bombed and then they all rush to the particular crime scene. The recent incident, where one of the UJ kids was caught in a crossfire. So people must not run to the scene of crime because it's very important for the DNA, for the fingerprint and other material to be collected so that they can be processed, so that the case is more stronger and you are also able to place those people at the scene of crime. So it is very, very crucial for our citizens not to contaminate scenes going forward. But at the same time, we welcome the strategy that was used. And obviously, the way they've mapped them up, the whosoever followed whosoever from the airport and the likes. But remember, there's a boogeyman. This was a contract killing. Now they need to follow the money trail or do their best to get the boogeyman to join this particular criminal. And at the same time, those ballistics guns that they were in possession of, they need to communicate with the counterpart of Swaziland and check on their side if those guns haven't committed any further crimes other than the ones that we know of.
Help us understand that process with the counterparts in Swaziland. And obviously there's some sort of diplomatic relationship between various countries in Southern Africa. But in particular, what's the first port of call for police? Do they approach their counterparts? Do they approach Interpol? How does that process work?
It appears to me that they approach the Interpol. They notify them to say they are suspects in that other country. So they help them to effect arrest on the other side.
Right. And with regards to, Calvin, keeping the public abreast with these developments, how does that affect a case? I mean, step by step, briefing the public, we've got this person, and then move on. Does that hamper progress in a case?
No, definitely it doesn't. That's why, the minute they said, no, there are suspects that are related to this particular matter, we took a case like with Thabo Beste, and we need to also applaud, Judge Edwin Cameron.
Right.
I mean, if it wasn't for him, many victims would have fallen into this habitual criminal called Thabo Beste. Why I'm saying that? The pictures of these particular criminals, they were supposed to be released long time. Look, they had fun, what could have happened to the students that were residing close to that particular house in Swaziland? So if everybody was aware of them, they could have not aided and abated them, knowing that they are the criminals, and could have, taken out that information. So police, they need to work with the communities. The communities, they are intelligent on the ground. They know the information, they know who's doing what, and they can easily help, in identifying some of this, criminals once they are out there in the loose, not only for this matter.
Well, then it does talk to the other issue of protecting whistleblowers as well, right? There's obviously a fear if somebody comes out and speaks. Safety issues come at play as well. The old saying is, see something, say something. Easier said than done. How do we protect people in order to give them the confidence to speak out?
Yeah, no, look, we welcome the last gathering that the government was in Kahoot in the recent one, where they spoke about protection of whistleblowers and also witnesses. Now, there are two different types of whistleblowing or giving out information. There's anonymous tip-offs, and one shouldn't divulge who gave the information. Like in the townships, most of the guys, they come with information, but at the end of the day, somehow it leaks that so at such a house is the one who gave us this information. Then there are witnesses like myself. I'm in one of the cases, which is a high-profile case, whereby if an analysis has to be done, how dangerous my life could be, then the police, they need to provide me with securities. Right. So it is very crucial to have witnesses in every case so that they can guide you, that the gun is in a red plastic on the left seat. It's very crucial, and then police can now, even though we are reactive, because we said crime intelligence is supposed to be proactive, but since they are missing in action, let us work together with the SABC and give out information as much as we can.
Your take on crime intelligence and they work thus far?
Well, I should say there are progress that there's progress that is being made, but you remember the witness who was blowing whistle in the Department of Health, who ended up losing her life. Such kind of things, I think it's something that, like he says, they must be proactive. If we have them, we must also have a means of protecting these witnesses who come and blow the whistle, so that these kind of crimes could be eliminated. Before
I bring in my digital audience, I just want to get your take with regards to the motive. Motive, normally seen as a primary element in a case. We don't know the exact motive as yet. Police say they have their suspicions, but they don't want to talk about it. Understandable. How soon do you think, in terms of these processes, it goes back to court on the 6th of March for bail verification, how soon do you think we will know the motive?
It is tricky to put a time frame to that. Remember that when they were briefing the media, they spoke highly and gave a step-by-step process that they followed since April last year. They also went to an extent of saying the target in this particular crime was Mr. Forbes, and his friend was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. They also know the payments that were done from one person to the other. So there's quite a lot of investigations that was done. But of course, South Africans, all of us are waiting to know what exactly was the main purpose of the killing. If the guy who is on the dog to say he's a coordinator and he is the one who was issuing instructions, is he the main guy? How does he link? What kind of a motive did he have to commit such a contact crime? So the motive is important, but we can't keep a time frame to it. It will also depend on the unfolding of the evidence. You will also remember that the police commissioner of KZN, Mr. Mkwana, has said, we don't rule off the issue of arresting more people. So the issue can be on how the investigating officers unfold the evidence, bringing more evidence, bringing in more accused person to join those that we have so far.
All right, so lots to discuss. I need to take a break. So you know what we'll do? We'll take a break now, and then we'll come back afresh with our digital audience as well. We're just understanding the strategy being used by police. Will it be effective? Time will tell. Quick break, more next. Welcome back. You're watching It's Topical. Let me remind you about our question of the week. And we ask you, what do you make of the strategy being employed by the police to catch AKA and Tibz murder suspects with regards to the parallel cases that we heard from Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Jele, the KZN the KZN commissioner, police commissioner. Do you think it'll be effective? Is it something different that you heard over the years? What about the alleged hits, right? Do you think police, there's a lot riding with regards to this case, with regards to police and the NPA? Let us know at It's Topical SABC. Let's go straight to our digital audience now. And I want to bring in Dr. Kanagi Naidu. I understand Dr. Naidu is from the University of Zululand, the Department of Criminal Justice. Dr. Naidu, good to have you on the program. Your take on this strategy being used by police with regards to over a period of a year or thereabouts, arresting people on different charges, but building up that case for the so-called main case, which is the AKA and Tibz murder. Your thoughts?
Good evening, Blaine. Good evening, viewers. To start off with, we have a criminal justice model of due process, which is provided for in the Constitution. And based on that, I find myself agreeing with the strategy of making sure that you have sufficient evidence that is likely to link the suspects to the commission of the offense before you proceed with the arrest. That's on the side of the police to ensure that the arrest is lawful and there's something substantial that you can use to link the suspects to the offense. And then also from the side of the prosecution in formulating the charges and then proceeding with the prosecution, it's important for the prosecutor to satisfy themselves that there is sufficient evidence to sustain a prosecution and that there is indeed a prima facie case against all the suspects that will appear in court and then become accused. It's important that the public have confidence in the arrest and in the likelihood of a successful prosecution arising out of this matter. Considering that it is dealing with the murder of AKA, it goes without saying that the case is receiving a lot of public attention globally. So as the criminal justice system, both the South African Police Services and the NPA have to ensure that the case has merit and it's not going to be a wasteful exercise. And the manner in which evidence was collected is commendable, and it's hoped that the prosecution will be expedited and will be successful at the end of the day.
Doc, before I let you go, and you raised something with regards to this case being in the public eye, do you think police, and I'm talking generally now, act or perform differently depending on how high profile a case is?
If we reflect on cases involving high-profile accused, I have to say yes. There's a lot more attention paid to these cases where we have high-profile victims. So yes, it does leave room for questions in certain aspects when one has to look at equality before the law. And as you mentioned earlier, justice should be seen to be done.
Correct.
And everybody having a fair right to justice. Police do pay a lot more attention when a case is under the spotlight.
Speaking to 702 this week, I heard Police Minister Abigail Ngobese saying that maybe the media shows more interest in these high-profile cases and forgets about, I guess, the gains that are being made in other cases. He cited the progress being made in Umhlabuyalingana in KwaZulu-Natal. Andiswa, let's get your take. You're a criminology student. Talk to us about, when you assess this, what do you think about this strategy being employed?
Good evening, everyone. Honestly, I think the strategy could work because, honestly, if you look at other previous high cases, some of them that haven't been solved as yet. So now there has to be a strategy that has to be employed. Maybe there could be a change. So I think this parallel cases strategy would work in terms of maybe coming up with solutions into solving this particular crime. Because, in most cases, the criminals have a certain modus operandi. So in most cases, you would know how they operate. So catching them would be much easier. So the parallel cases where we include most cases that they have done before. So I think that could really work for the police.
Right. Calvin, I'm not sure if there are uniform indicators, but what are some of the signs that police and NPA use in order to say that this case is ripe for prosecution?
Yeah, look, NPA, their case is mostly as good as in a criminal case, as having a so-called 204, a state witness, who will guide them in the person who was equally participating and will guide them. But at the same time, issues like ballistic and finding someone with the very same weapon in comparison to the particular scene. And, you get issues like your cell phone records that can easily place a person at the crime scene and at, the time when they are arrested. But also, just to answer the other question that you asked, to determine who is the mastermind also, I think with cell phone, they can easily download them and it can even guide them on who communicated, who said what. But the main thing, the case is as good as having a 204, recruiting one of them to be a particular state witness in the matter. Then your case is as solid as good.
Right. With regards to the duration of this case, Abigail, I was just listening to the magistrate talking about the next sitting, which is on the 6th of March for bail verifications. And I wrote down some of the things he was saying. And he was saying that he says it's foreseeable that they won't finish on the 6th. It's going to be postponed to the 14th of March. Then on the 14th of March, it'll be then postponed to the 18th, the 19th of March. And again, the magistrate said that, it's foreseeable that the matter won't be finalized in those 2 days. Then it'll be postponed to the 27th of March. For the layman, just listening to that, you wonder, why does it need to take that long? One of the reasons was obviously the availability of the prosecution team as well as the defense team. But should it take that long? Are there better ways to speedily, get a resolution to certain cases?
In general, accused persons have rights to have their cases begin and completed without unreasonable delay. But given the nitty-gritties of how things are done, we find matters dragging in court. I was there in court, I heard the postponement dates, but what was also concerning was the fact that they postponed a matter for bail verification. And when they talk bail verification, they talk about the addresses. But it's something that you would think, with the thorough investigation that they have done already, they already know, they already have this kind of why postpone for 7 days for issues such as an address. But I guess this is a general, I also do other criminal cases, this is a general practice. They postpone matters with 7 days to have their addresses verified. And I think with the length of the matter, you remember that these are seven accused persons, if we also count the ones that are in Swaziland. But talking about the ones that we have in South Africa, if we were to deal with the issue of bail with them, it's 5 accused if I don't count those who are already in custody for other matters. Remember that this is a Schedule 6 offense, and offenses, there is evidence that needs to be led. We don't know how many witnesses will be brought, how many investigating officers will be brought to listen to the actual Schedule 6 bail application, where the accused persons are tasked, they're having the onus on them to prove and discharge circumstances to say that the interest of justice permits their release on bail. So I guess the magistrate was alive to the issues of saying we do need to listen to the evidence that is there. I don't know whether it's the vast witnesses, list of witnesses that will be called for the purposes of a bail application. And I don't know whether these accused persons will be doing their bail application through affidavits or through oral evidence. So that as well takes a stand in the bail application.
You know, something that the magistrate was alive to as well was the fact that the suspects or the accused, when they appeared in court, the face was covered. And I guess these things are learning curves for us watching from afar. And he was asking why their face covered. This is open court. What are some of the rules that regulate in terms of the identification of the suspects / accused?
I guess there are a variety of factors, but on this particular one, how I listen to the magistrate was say, this is an open court. There is nothing before me that says contrary to say there is a need for the accused persons to cover themselves. I remember that the defense counsel tried to address to say they are still accused, and if this is a live broadcast, it's the public, the media is here, if their faces are shown, the issues of safety for this particular case, for this particular accused persons. But the magistrate was saying and keen to say, this is a public hearing, and they should cover themselves. There is no application before me to have their identity concealed.
Let me go to a digital audience. I'm told I've got about 4 minutes left. Let's listen to Musa. Musa, if you can unmute. Oops. It looks like it's frozen. The picture is frozen. Let's go to Liso. Liso, can you hear me? If you can unmute, Liso, you can go ahead. Yeah.
Yes, please. Yes, please. I can, please. I can hear you.
Go ahead. Your thoughts on the strategy?
Yes, please. I won't lie. The parallel strategy at this stance, it is going to work, because remember that the suspects that are in this case are involved in other cases. So there's a lot of information that can be used, and there's a lot of information that can come out during the trial.
Right.
Remember that a case, in order for us to have a strong case, we must also have witnesses. So in this case, as much as there are 6 suspects, and now we also need to have witnesses as well. So in order for us to get moving forward, especially this case of this case that involves high-profile individuals,
right?
We have to get things right. We cannot afford to flop things. I believe that there's a lot of evidence that is going to come up during the way.
All right. Lisa, thank you very much indeed. Let's hear from Stembiso. Stembiso, can you hear us? All right, it seems that we're having an issue with Stembiso. Let's go back to Musa. If you can unmute.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Good evening. Just to add, I see what the police did in this strategy. I think the strategy worked perfectly well, because they did manage to capture 5 suspects. So just to add, the law enforcement has to do whatever they can to combine and collect all evidence and continue with investigation to claim justice for Mr. Forbes, for our South African celebrity, because this is not the first time the South Africa witnessed such a case where the South African celebrity get to be gunned down and have no justice. And I believe it's not the last time. We live in a cruel world where people are obsessed with money, as they can do anything just to get the money. So in my opinion, we're still going to have such discussions, same case, celebrity get to gun down and no justice, but for a different a name or different celebrity. So if the police can look at this issue in a different way, because it's not the first time we witness such a case.
All right, thank you very much indeed. Let's try Stembiso one more time. Stembiso, can you hear us? Go ahead with your comments. If you can unmute. All right, it seems that we're having a bit of an issue with Stembiso. Oh, there we go. Last try, brother. Go on.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tibz. I wish to share my thoughts on the strategy that the SABC has used. So what I wish to reveal here is that the SABC unit's most important partner with the criminal justice accountability cannot perform without effective and efficient complementary relations between the MPA and SABS. So the strategy, I think, it will work very properly since they managed to identify most of the things. For instance, pre-arrest, they managed to clarify the elements such as identifying the crime tools, firearms, and so forth. So they also managed to identify, including the fingerprint that's they recovered in the crime scene. So I think the strategy will work.
Right. So thank you very much indeed. Calvin, let's button up the conversation. Final word to you due to time. By many accounts, pretty good start in terms of from the police's side. What could trip them up, though, at this stage of the game?
Yeah, no, I think they've got a good case. And, we are also happy that the family is getting justice. Because we heard on one of the documentary where the father of AKA was bound to hire a private investigator. And we believe the mother of Tibz also passed on because of the severe stress. Yeah. But the police are moving in the right direction together with the NPA. And it's only a matter of time that, these people can be sentenced once they are linked to that particular crime. And, justice can be served.
All right. Thank you very much indeed for your time, Calvin. Abigail, thank you very much indeed for your time as well. Time has run out, but no doubt we will monitor this case very closely. Digital audience, appreciate your time. We have a presence in Eswatini as SABC. Please keep it locked onto this channel. You'll get all the very latest from Eswatini as well as here in South Africa this week with regards to the AKA Tibz murder case. All right, before we go, here's my take. Look, we have to celebrate success. Why? Because at the very least, it motivates those who are in search for better to do better, right? If the police are making a noticeable difference, then let's recognize it. But it's also hard to separate the police service from the public it serves. So if communities feel that they are not being served adequately, then they have a right to raise their voice and be heard. I would suggest, though, that we need progress, not necessarily perfection. It's important. Why? Because progress helps us fight another day. It gives us hope. So on the road to better, don't let perfection be the enemy of progress. And that's my take. If you miss anything on this program, be sure to watch this episode of Topical on YouTube. Sports Live up next with Zai Khan. If you are watching a repeat of this program, then as always, the news continues. Until next week, my brothers and sisters, take care. Bye-bye.